This program is brought to you by LegendaryStrength.com. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. It is recommended you talk to your qualified health professional before making any changes to your exercise plan, diet, or prescription medication use. Legendary Strength is not responsible for any claims made during this program. Hey there, it's Logan Christopher from the Legendary Strength Podcast. And in this episode, what we're going to do is, well, first, let me tell you, I just got back from Tallahassee, Florida, where we held the third ever Superhuman Training Workshop. Really, with our events, it seems to keep happening, but they're all so good, it's hard to say which is the best one, and I really do think they're getting better and better as we go on. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that occurred there and some of the, actually a lot of the awesomeness, and give you some details, a couple of learning lessons that I myself picked up and all that stuff. So this should be a fun episode. First off, let me start by saying that this event was not quite as planned. Bud Jeffries and I, we had worked to bring on a number of the strongest people in the world, and for whatever reason, don't want to get into all the details, some people decided to back out of what they had told us they were going to do. So we were left with a slightly different event than what we had initially planned. But ultimately, I believe it was better because of this, because there wasn't as many presenters as we had originally planned on having. We had more time to go deeper into the exercises and not just do like a sort of surface level presentation from each person. Let's start talking about some of the really cool things that we covered at this event. So with the Superhuman Workshop, what we've done in the past and will continue to do in the future, we really like to cover a wide range of bases on really what it takes to become superhuman. So in the first workshop, it was really just largely me and Bud, but we're covering all different areas from feats of strength, kettlebells, body weight exercises, health and nutrition, mental training, all of that. And this one was much the same, just in some different areas. What we like to do with our events, this isn't a certification. In the future, we're likely to be putting on some certifications because, I mean, why not? Why get certifications from a bunch of other people when you can really get them from some of the strongest people in the world, and really with information that you can't find in other places. But with the Superhuman Workshop, we like to bring you a lot of new stuff. And a lot of wide-ranging stuff, as I already said. So one of the things that we covered here with Bud Jeffries, he went deeper on isometrics. You may have seen in the workshop from last year, and we released the DVDs of this in a set called Extreme Power with Isometrics Volume 1, and we knew from the beginning it was just Volume 1 because we were kind of constrained on time there, but could only go so deep. So in this workshop, he basically began where the last set left off, where he left off in the last workshop, and went much further and much deeper with isometrics. I think in total it was probably over a 4-hour session on isometrics, all different ways you can use them, including new ways that Bud has been training with since meeting with and working with Steve Justa, who is a huge fan of isometrics himself. So there's some really, really cool stuff in there. One thing that I really liked was the distinction between different types of isometrics. Bud had covered this before, but specifically there are three main ways of using isometrics that really stand out in my mind. And this is, of course, pressing against some sort of immovable object. It can be done in multiple different ways depending on if you're going like the old York style where you're lifting a barbell to a point, or just actually pressing on an immovable object. So you have a short, very intense duration isometric. Usually this is like a 6, maybe 10-second range isometrics where you, over that time, you ramp up and you're pushing 100%. A different type is the extended isometric, where you're going for a minute, several minutes, even up to many minutes in time. In this, you can't obviously be going 100%, but you're trying to maintain more than just a hold in a position. A hold is an isometric, but in doing isometrics such as this, your goal is to actually be pressing more than it takes just to hold. So an example of that, something that Bud has been doing a lot of, as well as his son Noah, is the wall chair. And not just holding a body weight wall chair, but adding weight to the exercise. Noah worked up to doing a half-hour wall chair with 200 pounds, I believe it was, sitting in his lap, which is, if you think about it, I mean, most people can't even hold a few minutes in a wall chair, and definitely not with 200 pounds, but supported over 1,000 pounds, I think it was, for several minutes at a time. So very far with this. What really piqued my interest was Noah saying that after doing this wall chair training, without training for it, his deadlift went up quite dramatically. His reasoning was that it really taught him like his center of mass and being able to use that more. One thing where I see that this could help me in the wall chair, something I plan on adding to my training, is that I use more of my back. I do a real high hip position deadlift, and if I used my legs more in the exercise, the quads squatting a little more, I'd be able to generate more power because I can use those muscles as well. So I plan on adding the wall chair isometrics into my own training. Now, of course, this exercise is not fun. Anyone that's ever done it's not a fun exercise, but I'm going to look for the effect and for how it can help me with my goals. So that isometric portion, really this was the most detailed. I mean, before it was the most detailed. Here is even more detailed than that. So look for that. I'll tell you at the end about us releasing DVDs and all of that. A cool thing about the Superhuman Workshop is we have all these different people, and really in all the workshops that we do. So you get different ideas from different people, and one the really cool thing is the connections that are made. I believe it was the second day, maybe it was the third day, but we had done some mobility training with Eric Gutman earlier. But from that, Bud was sort of developing a concept. He sort of tested this on people, then decided to present it out front. If you don't know, Bud Jeffries has a massage background. He was a massage therapist, and one massage technique is myofascial release. So what he sort of drew out was the combination of this and mobility. Right now we're working with the name myofascial mobility, but really using the idea that in the fascia itself is stored injuries, stored movement, and everything. It's really, it's not everything that happens to us is stored in the brain, but the fascia itself can store that information. And with myofascial release, what you're doing is sort of unwinding that, and a trained massage therapist can feel that sort of action going on in the fascia itself. But with this myofascial mobility, the idea was then to have the mobility, the movements that you do really work with that fascia to a point where it's taking over and doing the exact movements it needs in order to better itself, to unwind, to get rid of any sort of injuries or kinks or holds that are locking it down. So it's sort of an intuitive type of mobility process, and instead of just, do 5 shoulder circles this way, do 5 shoulder circles that way, which is good. You need to know and understand that stuff on a basic level, but this was going to a whole nother level where you're doing the movements that fit for your body. And in doing this, what I noticed was, one, I was just completely charged with energy afterwards. I just felt great. My whole body was really opened up and I could move very well when doing it. I also noticed I was doing movements that I wouldn't necessarily be doing when doing the classic mobility drills. Some of the common stuff is in there, you got circles, lines, figure eights, all different patterns. But then I'm doing some other movements or just going in specific areas. Also different areas of the body needed the work more than others. So it's really cool to do that, and that's something I plan on adding into my daily morning routine. So I mentioned this. Eric Gutman, he went into his mobility routine, how he specifically uses it, really from learning from a number of different people and just adding all those different parts together. It's a fairly basic mobility routine if you've done mobility before, but there were some really cool distinctions, like how to sort of download more information into joints by walking around and noticing within your body the awareness of how the joint feels and how your brain actually feels, where you feel it in your brain as you're doing the exercise. So that was really cool. Then at a later time he showed what's going to be part of his Extreme Military Fitness Advanced course, but an agility workout and explosiveness workout, using when people think of explosive, sure you got kettlebells, which are definitely explosive, and Olympic lifts, but there's so many other exercises you can do. Bodyweight exercise, he was showing some really cool stuff with medicine balls, and really a workout focused completely on explosiveness, working the body in all different manners. Also using agility drills with a ladder. A lot of people that have played sports in high school, definitely in football, but other ones as well, have likely used these agility drills before, but that may have been the last time they ever did them. So seeing this brought back, agility is one trait that most people, that just work out in the gym, it's not something that they regularly do, yet it is one component of movement. It's the ability to move, but also the coordination required to do that. So there's some really cool stuff in there. A new person for our workshops was Drew Patrick. Now, you may not be familiar with Drew Patrick. He is massive. He's 320 pounds, I believe he said he was. Humongous guy. He's built more like a silverback gorilla than a man. And we gave him a lot of time to teach really his program, what he does to become as ridiculously strong as he is. He holds multiple, I believe it's the IPL World Bench Records. And that's not even his strongest lift. He's lifted probably more weight than anyone else in a seated overhead press or with dumbbells overhead or incline. All sorts of really cool things. At one point, I'm teaching handstand push-ups, and Drew, I was talking to him the night before, and he was saying, yeah, I've done handstand push-ups, but the truth is it's too light of weight. So he gets up into a handstand push-up position and cranks out 26 reps at 320 pounds. So this shows that, bodyweight exercises are great and everything. That's what I actually taught at the workshop. But you can become massively strong with weights. And here's a guy that, he trains with weights, cranking out more handstand push-ups than anyone else there. So it was very impressive. And he actually has a goal for a one-arm handstand push-up now after I talked to him and told him that no one's really done it. It probably won't be because he's not quite as mobile, when you have that much mass, getting in a strict handstand position is not going to be easy to do. But even doing that in any form with that much weight is going to be amazing. So I look forward to him doing that in the future. Anyway, Drew Patrick was teaching his system. He calls it the 8-day-a-week program for what it takes to become massive and strong and lifting weights. What's really cool is in his program, there's a lot of rest time. There's quite a bit of rest in between workouts, and there's a deload week, or you take about 10 days off after going through it's something like 5 or 6 week training cycle. This is a thing that a lot of people don't realize. I wrote about this in the Master Keys to Strength and Fitness. You can train basically two ways. You can go with a moderated intensity. Really, I use the term in that book severity to distinguish it from intensity as like a percentage of your max, but really on how hard that you're going, like with doing biofeedback training. Because you're not going to your limit at all, you can actually train every day. You can do the exercise often. You can do that and train very frequently. And if you're doing like skill work, like the handstands and handstand push-ups, that sort of thing, where a lot of skills involved, I would encourage you going that way. If you're looking just to become ridiculously strong, you can also go with a very high intensity or severity, where you're working your butt off, the whole like training to failure or training close to failure, but really working very hard and to the point where you are tearing down that muscle. If you're going to go this route, you need lots of rest, and that is a mistake people make. If you're training that hard and trying to train often, that's where you're going to get injured. That's where you're overtraining and all that. So it was great to see Drew's program for how to become massive and strong, but to see all the rest that is built into there. And he's talking about, people, because of all this rest, injuries go away, people become massively stronger. You're really not doing all that much work, even on those given days, though it is pretty intense work. Just going through that and seeing him, I really want to get back to weightlifting, but I'm not going to just follow the shiny object like I talked about in one of my recent articles. I am going to stay focused on my body weight goals. Once I achieve the body weight goals I have for the year, I'm going to get back to lifting a lot more iron than I have been recently, just because that is something I like to do, and that's how I do things. I cycle between the different ones. So once I got that one arm chin, then I'll probably go up in weight and everything, but work on maintaining that one arm chain while lifting a lot more weight. Drew Patrick really coached us through technique on the bench press, which is it's cool. A lot of people are negative on the bench press because, again, the kettlebells, body weight, all this, and the bench press is responsible for a lot of people hurting themselves. The thing is, for the most part, this is because they don't know proper technique. And in all my years of training, granted I haven't been seeking this out, but I've never actually been coached on what it takes to really do the bench press right. And so he was guiding every participant we had there through it, and people are just setting PRs after PRs because with the proper technique, the exercise is not only safer but much easier to do. He did that with the bench press, also did it with the deadlift, and we all, a lot of people were setting PRs with rack pulls and then the full deadlift. I set a recent PR. I've just recently got back into my own deadlift training and working my way back up so I can pursue my goal of 605 pounds this year. But for the first time in quite a long time, since back when I was deadlifting, I hit a 455 pound deadlift, and it felt pretty good. So it was really cool to get coaching from someone that can lift just such massive weights, and he demonstrated throughout the workshop even though we didn't have anything. It was so funny when he started his workshops, he was referring to Bud's 150-pound dumbbells as toys, and then literally later that day he was doing a side lateral raise with these 150-pound dumbbells. So it's really cool to see someone this freaking strong, and he's a great guy as well. Also, what he talked a lot about was attitude. The attitude it takes to become a world champion and become one of the best in the world. So it's really cool stuff. Everyone had a great time with him teaching. Some of the other really cool things about the workshop is, and this is why I would encourage you, whoever's listening here, go to some workshops. If you want to get good at this stuff, you need to go to workshops. I highly encourage you, of course, to come to the Superhuman workshop next year and other workshops that I put on along with these other people, because I think they are some of the best workshops out there. But the value in a workshop is you can go up to any one of these guys and ask whatever questions that you want, ask for technique on specific things and how it will help you out, all that stuff, and that was really going to give it. The presentations are nice, and we make these available on DVDs and all that, but a lot of the value, a big part of the value, what makes it worth flying out there, spending several days, getting a hotel, all the added expenses to it, but what makes it worth it is you get this one-on-one attention, and just small things can result in huge breakthroughs. I was working with Bobby, who has been to a number of our workshops recently, the first Superhuman workshop, the Wizards workshop, and now this one here, and just before the workshop even began, we were messing around. There's some phone books. I was like, oh, you need to do this. And he was going from struggling with his phone book to being able to tear right through it. It's this small tip helped him out dramatically. And the phone books isn't something he's really working on a whole bunch, but if he knows that technique and can use it in the future, he's going to be that much better. Same happened when I was teaching the levers. Just one tip allowed him to get much better position. And even later, after the workshop was wrapped up, we were just messing around with a block weight that was there, and I showed everyone there a couple techniques on how to spread your hand really wide, how to grip it, how to position it right so that it's much easier to pull off the ground. And people that couldn't do it before, now with that technique, we're able to do it. So with the right technique, realize you can become instantly much stronger, be able to pull off stuff that you couldn't do before. So that is the value of getting live hands-on training. Of course, with any coach you can get this as well, but the cool thing about the workshop is, like I said, there's all these different teachers that all have different expertise, so depending on what you want, you can go up to them and get the help that you need and get ideas from multiple different people. So let's get back to a few of the other things that were covered in the workshop. We had Noah Jeffries there, who is Bud's son. Now, Noah is 16 years of age, and if you haven't seen him in action, he is ridiculously strong. I mean, it helps coming from the line of Bud Jeffries and everything, but it's not so much genetic. You're sure that component's in there, but just being around training, seeing amazing strength displayed all the time, and just being really living that as life and getting around other strong guys. Bud has or excuse me, Noah has become one of the best benders in the world, and not just for a 16-year-old kid, but hands down, period, one of the best benders in the world, far better than I am. And he's closing in on being able to do the Iron Mine gold nail. Now, not necessarily with the Iron Mine wraps or anything, but as far as I know, no one has officially bent the gold nail all the way. Noah's capable of just crushing red nails, no problem anymore, but he's closing in on this gold nail. So what Noah went into was, sure, some of the technical details of bending, which a lot of people know that, and we've actually covered in the past, but really his sort of mindset going in. And there's some really deep and off-the-wall stuff there, but very cool to see how someone operates at a high level, what's working for them, how you can take those things and maybe incorporate it for you and see how it works. In my studying of NLP, one of the major things in NLP is modeling, which is seeing what other people are doing and replicating it for yourself. Now, you need to do this in the physical plane, basically, what actual actions are they taking, but another part of that is, what are they thinking as they're going through, what are their thought processes, all the different mental processes they go through, the emotional processes as well. Bending metal is actually can be an emotional thing. What emotions are you bringing to the table? Is it anger? Is it something else? All that stuff. So getting and going deep on this, you're able to see what it takes to really operate at that level. Now, people are different, so what works for someone may not work for you, technique-wise or mental process-wise as well. But sometimes those things do work exactly for you. So once you understand someone's mental processes that allow them to do something at such high level, then you can take that and incorporate it into yourself. What I taught some stuff that I have not taught in a long time, and some new stuff as well. I taught one segment on lever training, doing the front lever and the back lever. I've got lots of success doing the back lever. I'm closing in on holding a full front lever myself, so I detailed the different steps I've done to do that, as well as some really cool dynamic exercises that aren't covered in a lot of places. Some are, like an ice cream maker, but one I actually recently saw from Al Cavaldo doing in one of his videos where he's in the back lever position and doing leg raises. It's sort of a reverse hyper type action, but in a much harder position to do. So it was really cool to teach these exercises to people that, some of which had begun lever training, some had never really done it before. But really with lever training, regardless of where you're at, there's some progressions along the way, assuming you have like a base level of strength to get up into even the starting tuck lever position. So that was cool, and there's some great info in there. I also taught handstand push-ups, which I haven't taught in a long time, and all the details that it takes to build up to doing a handstand push-up where you're touching your head to the ground, then moving on to full range handstand push-ups, and also some details on freestanding handstand push-ups. And I was very pleased. This is really showing the group effect in action. But even after all this training, and I was fatigued from doing these full range handstand push-ups and everything, I was guiding people through technique, but I set up to do a freestanding handstand push-up set, and I was thinking, I can probably get like 2 reps or something right now, my previous best being 3, but then I cranked out 1, 2, 3, and with everyone cheering me on, I was able to get a 4th rep. It was shaky and everything, but I got it locked out at the top in good position, so hit a new PR for myself that day. That is one thing that is really cool about our workshops. Sure, it happens at other ones as well, but there are so many PRs that occur as we go through everything that we're teaching. A lot of them, granted, do happen because people are doing exercises they haven't done either ever, so the first time you do it, it is actually a personal record for you, but also haven't done it in a long time, so if they've been building up strength and everything else, then they're able to get it. But a lot of the PRs are happening just because of this technique coaching, just because also the group effect in action with everyone cheering you on and you're aiming for it. So people hit a lot of PRs throughout the entire time. I mean, tons of them from every section that we do. So there's some really cool effects that happen once you get to the workshop. Just a couple other reasons that our workshops are great. You know, a lot of workshops are, but not really all of them. All the attendees absolutely loved it, and when you have people that are, you know, so happy to be learning this stuff and showing it off and everything, then it is great. We always like to keep our workshops small. You know, we might get somewhat bigger in the future, have some bigger events, but personally, I don't want to go too big, because then you're doing something and you don't have that personal level of attention and all that. So we're always going to try to keep our workshop groups small, on the small side, so that people get that attention, and it really creates that sort of intimate atmosphere. I mean, throughout the whole weekend, we are going out to lunch together, going out to dinner together, and you just more time spent around people, get to talk to them and all that. And it's really cool because we have a large portion of our people are repeat attendees throughout our seminars. And Melody has been to all 5 of our big weekend-long events that we've had. So she's the reigning champion of the most events so far. So it's just great people. Not only are the quality of instructors really high, but the quality of the attendees is really high. We have some very knowledgeable people that by themselves can and should be speaking up on stage teaching other people. So not only do you get this information from the interactions with the presenters and questions you can ask them, but you get help from all the other attendees as well. We have some amazing people like Melody, Bobby. I mean, so many of the guys there are great at their own things and what they do. So, unfortunately, the truth is, listening to this podcast, since I'm recording it after, that you missed the event. And there's never going to be an event like that again. Once again, all of our events are unique in what we do. It's not some cookie cutter program that we run you through and it's the same where everyone else goes through it. But every one of our events, we bring unique stuff to the table. What we're going to be doing, still have to figure out some of the details, but the Superhuman Training Workshop is an annual event. This was just the 3rd one. 4th one is coming up. What we're going to do is really set this one up a good long ways in advance. Likely it will be in Florida again. We're looking at some other options rather than Tallahassee for the simple reason we love Laurel Blackland's gym, boot camps to go. It is an awesome gym and great and everything, but Tallahassee has a small airport and it can be difficult and expensive to get into, so we're looking at moving maybe to some place like Miami or Orlando where it's easier to get there, so that we can have a few more people, and people that want to make it will have an easier time doing that. Also a possibility of moving it over back to California. We'll see what happens on there, but likely this event will be coming up in probably March or April of 2014. Another reason some people may have missed this is just being right after New Year's. Could have been difficult to get to. Completely understand that. We're going to try to make it so it's an easier thing to do so that you can come and enjoy the awesomeness with us. So we will have details coming up relatively shortly, probably within a month or so. And, you know, since it will be about a year out, you're going to be able to get an extreme early bird price, and you're going to be able to claim your spot. Once again, everything is limited because we like to keep the small groups, but by doing it this far in advance, I think some people should be able to make this event that maybe have not been able to make it before. So there's that. Also, we record on video every single one of our events. This one was no different. We will be making the DVDs of this event available. Probably also going to work on doing an online digital video, so if you want to download them, pay a little less and be able to get that, then that should work out too. We're going to test that out. We may be doing something slightly different where you can just buy individual components right away, as well as get the entire workshop at a deeper discount of a price. But look for that coming relatively soon. Got to get all the footage together, edited and all that. But we're fast about it, whereas a lot of other people are not so quick. We want to get this information, this really great information on isometrics, on mobility, on explosiveness and agility, on what it takes to become massive and strong, body weight exercises, bending, all this stuff and more that we had there. We want to get it in your hands so you can use it to accelerate your training, because like I said, those tiny tips in technique, one little thing or one new exercise, one different approach, that can make all the difference in your training. So we had so much fun here. We want to spread it out, and I completely understand not everyone can fly out and make it, especially if you're overseas and whatnot, although we did have some overseas attendees. If you can't make the event, the next best thing, get the DVDs. In some ways, DVDs are better because you can actually go back and study them over and over again to get more, because there's so much dense information at times that it takes more than one viewing to get all the information. So look for that info coming soon. It'll always be, we'll have the details on getting old Superhuman Workshop DVDs on legendarystrength.com, also at strongerman.com for Bud stuff, and our new partners like drewpatrick.com, ericgootman.com. You'll be able to find the different information, DVDs, products, everything we have there. And as far as the next Superhuman Workshop, you can check out superhumanworkshop.com. Right now it just might be the old information, but in the near future we'll have that information for the 2014 workshop. Also stay tuned for other workshops we have along the way. Right now that's the plan for the next one, but there will be some other ones that come up as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. I gave a few tips on what I learned from the workshop, what you can use to help achieve your goals, whatever they happen to be, and I hope you got something out of this. So thank you, and I'll talk to you next week.